I'm starting the video.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Will you please take roll?
Mrs. Leskowicz?
Here.
Mrs. Butler? Here. Mr. Elam?
Here.
Mrs. Johnson? Here. Mr. B?
Here.
Will you please take roll?
Okay.
All right, let's stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. Yeah, I just want to start this meeting off with a little statement here. Yesterday, the Bethel community lost an invaluable educator, Cynthia Parsons. We are saddened by this, but thankful she's not suffering. And I'm sure all of us will keep her family in our thoughts and prayers as they grieve. And I would like to ask everyone to please stand and join me in observing a moment of silence to honor the memory and legacy of Ms. Parsons. Of the agenda, your motion. Second.
I'll second. Can you speak up a little bit?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
Sure.
okay. Thank you.
And then, will you, take roll, please?
Sure. Mrs. Leskowicz?
Yes.
Mrs. Butler?
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Elam?
Yes.
Mr. B?
Yes.
All right, now we've got public participation. So would Ms. Julie Reese please come up? With your,
Minutes on that.
no,
Oh,
This is from.
This-
that's the one, yeah. That's what we're discussing.
It's all the same.
No, the
Minutes are not-
agenda for today is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
that's okay.
Right there with you.
So it's right? We're,
Yep, yeah.
yep, so me?
Yep.
Oh,
It's you.
it's over here now.
Oh,
Okay. So these are my agenda questions. Why are all the December financial reports back? Are there corrections? It's a lot of reports to look at and review. For enrollment, can you just describe what the projections are based on? Did you get a chance to talk with DEC and have them provide input as to how many units they are building and selling each year? Plan. Also, have they indicated any mix of units as far as single family apartments, senior housing, et cetera? We know that in the past, it was 120 to 130 kids a year when they were in full swing. Thanks for bringing back the different department report each month. Appreciate that. The new salary schedule for the classified, in my opinion, it's going to break us. A custodian, step one, second shift is making $33,280. I understand now why it was hidden from the public. The middle school phys ed teacher is taking off 13 days, but we're hiring a long-term substitute. I was just wondering, I don't understand, since that's not that many days. Why are the changes to the policies hidden from the public? We always said that the public should be able to review those before they get voted on. They were protected. For the courses with description changes, can you tell us what the current descriptions are? The changes are not highlighted. Thank you for opposing annexation. Appreciate that. For the calendar, Miami County Fair is August 9th to 15th, which means teachers who have kids participating in the fair, showing animals or other activities will not be able to be there for or with their children. It looks like their time starts that week if I read it correctly. Why can't the public see the proposed new positions? If it is the right thing to do, why hide it? If these are additional admin or assistance to existing positions, as I suspect they are, I ask the board to soundly reject them. They're already top heavy and every department now sports a secretary, which is ridiculous for our size of a school. Please take a step back, compare to the other schools, get the strategic plan updated, know where you are going and what is truly needed before hiring more administrators. On the fence, I just wondered what kind of fence is being proposed for the elementary school. Please do not purchase a high dollar fancy fence when a chain link fence will get the job done. And my last request is please speak up, especially on this side, because we're not going to be able to hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. And then, you want one for later then too? Is that right? Julie?
I'm sorry?
You got 2 sheets, so one must be for agenda items and one is for later? Is
Yeah,
that
for the
right?
ending part. Did we not say any on it? Sorry.
That's okay. Right, then review of the agenda for February. So it looks like we'll start in with. Well, first, so I just had a comment. So in section B, under the approval of minutes, I just asked if Tina could, can you guys hear me now? I just asked if Tina could include more info in the public participation, state questions and follow up with a POC, who that POC is going to be, and then elaborate with a brief summary of concerns. So going forward in the minutes, we should see if there's any questions raised, just like Julie just asked questions. We should see who the POC was, who's going to get back an answer, and then we should be able to provide an answer at our next meeting. So that's the plan.
If I may, I'd like to ask, should we always just route those through Tina? One time it was an admin type thing that Shelley just had my name wrong or something, and I just sent it to her. Is that okay? Or do you prefer everything continue to come through you?
Yeah, if you put them through me, because I have to sign off on them to
Okay.
make sure they're okay.
All right.
We
Thank
work
you.
together to get that done.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any more discussion on that? All right, the income tax renewal. Gonna go over.
I thought we were. Okay, I guess I'm confused on what we're doing anymore. Okay, so there was a question.
Hold on.
Okay.
So there was this is gonna be the work session. We're gonna have discussions about what's going on and building the agenda for next week.
Mhm.
Then the plan is that all of the discussion is gonna happen this week, other than a few towards the end we had discussed the other day. We're gonna do a top level and then have a deeper discussion during next week's meeting. So was this one of the ones that I thought that we were gonna still?
No, this was something that has to put on the agenda, even though we closed it, but we reopened it. I didn't know how much it was gonna cost to put this on the ballot, and there were numbers thrown around by members of the community that ranged from $10 to thousands and thousands of dollars. And so I reached out to the Board of Elections and asked them to provide the estimate of what it would cost, because, you know, they're the experts and they'll be taking that from our settlement sheets, and it's $910. So I was asked to provide that. So I'm doing so. And then the other item was, let's see, I don't remember where I'm at. Everything. Yeah.
Guess while she's looking for that,
Mhm.
again, just in my short time here, when we were doing work sessions, things that were not voted on, we didn't get into the weeds too much during the work session, otherwise we ended up talking about it
Yeah,
twice.
Right.
And so, like superintendent's report, I would not go into any detail, just ask if there was anything that's not in there. If anybody would like to see something extra, I would then take that and then include it in the full report at the regular meeting.
Yeah, that's why I was confused. I didn't know we were going through these items as well, so.
Right, and probably the same with the discussion items as well. We just kind of hit them. Just a quick overview, we're gonna go in deeper. during the regular session.
Okay.
It's my thought.
Yep,
You're,
okay.
you're, but really, this time is to really, vet the things that are up for recommendation and do any other add-ons that we might need for the regular meeting.
But I also included what was in an email to the board about your ability to reduce the rate of the tax by a multiple of 1/4 of 1% at any time on a continuing levy. So that is the Ohio Revised Code, and pretty much word for word what I sent you guys in an email. So for the public and to respond to the questions that were asked me. So.
And then the treasurer's report. So did anybody here have any questions on the treasurer's report that you want to ask for later?
Well, some of those are just standards, what we do.
Oh, yeah, all
All
of
the
them are,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I ran into, I was sick. So that's why there's December and January. If you remember, we had a 2-hour financial meeting and I said, we'll
Yeah.
just do all the December reports in January as well. And so we were doing W-2s and 1099s and playing because I was out of the office. So I apologize for that. I also put out there for the board, how to look at these reports and what you're looking at. So take a moment to review that in your shared folders. And if you have any questions, let me know. But everything balances and where you're supposed to look to make sure that they balance. And yeah, it is a lot, but there's no rule that says I can't do 2 months at once. But, since we were doing W-2s and 1099s, I wanted to make sure everything was correct before we did any December reports. So please take a moment, review them, and we'll go into detail next month or next week. Like, I'm skipping ahead.
But so this is a voting item that we're gonna vote on next week,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Treasurer's report is.
Yes.
So we should ask our questions and discuss now, and then going forward, we'll be able to.
Should be a quick section.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. So,
hope.
so I wanted to ask a question. So do you want to bring these up or do you want me to just,
Sure. Which one do you want to ask?
the February's general fund? The December's.
October.
Wait a minute.
It's the 12/31/2023 general fund report.
Okay.
And then under expenses, the equipment and capital purchases, there is a huge difference. So I haven't had a chance to look at all your instructions yet, but if you go down the budget 6 months in, so we're the end of the second quarter, correct? And so we're halfway through the fiscal year and we should be at around 151,000 is what we budgeted for. And then the current is the 26,000. So I was just wondering what the difference was there.
We haven't spent it. There's some encumbrances out there. I know some of the athletic items that the board approved for purchase, there's encumbrances out there, but we're waiting for delivery and things of that nature. So the budget is just what we've budgeted for the whole year divided by the number of months we're already in, right? So it's a timing issue, and as soon as those items are received and paid for, that will update. So I'm just keeping a close eye on it. Right now, I think all that's coming out of there is maybe our lease for our printers and our copiers and things that we pay every month.
So you just split it by, you just divided by 4, the annual budget divided by 4, and then each quarter then you.
Divided by 12, so.
Or yeah,
monthly.
12 for, I was thinking for the quarter. Okay, all right. And then. The snapshot, I had some questions, but it pretty much mirrors the slide deck that goes with this, right? It pretty much mirrors the Excel spreadsheet, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then all of the different revenue snapshots of the chart should match up. So like public utility, should that fall on the spreadsheet here?
Public utility is the same thing as, this public utility is the same thing that's called tangible personal property on the general fund report. I can change it, but it's always been referred to as public utility. But on the general fund report, it's the name, which is tangible personal property.
Okay.
So I'll change that if that's confusing.
It is, yeah. Well, at least for me, I can't speak for others. And then the other, is that other state? And then federal is,
Now, I'm gonna take federal off of there because that's not part of the general fund report, but other is other local income. That could be the TIF payments, things of that nature, miscellaneous payments that we receive, or sometimes we get payment for things that we paid for last year. So that goes in that, refund of a prior year expenditure. So that all goes in other. If it doesn't fit in any of those other categories, it goes in other. So yeah, that's the catch-all that's been sort of set up by the state.
okay. On the next slide, where we talk about selling a bus. We owe any money on that bus, or was that 90, like,
We bought 3 buses last year, using last year or the year before.
They were ordered the year before.
Yeah, they were ordered the year before came in. With the help of the state grant and some general fund money. Because we had a little bit of a matching that we had to make because they just don't give you enough to buy a whole bus. So we sold that bus for $98,000 to West Carrollton. And so that money goes back into the district's coffers, but has to be spent on another bus because we use that grant money. So.
Okay. That's true.
Mhm.
and then the overall 20%, that's budgeted. But what is the overall 28%?
Going right there.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, overall, all of the revenues are over what my initial estimates were by 28.3%.
I noticed our income tax was down a little bit, but aren't we due to get another,
We got it
no.
in January.
we did?
So it is actually still down. It's not as much as we got last year. If our memory serves, it's $8,000 to $10,000 less, or it could be more than that. I gotta look at it again. I'm looking at a lot of numbers.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's still down. In January, we got our next payment,
Okay.
right? Then, so we'll get,
Okay.
one more in April.
I was gonna say, do we only get one more? We get 4 a year.
Get 4 a year. So this is number 2. So we should get April and then we'll get June.
Okay.
and then the last one for the construction analysis, the cash available, is that for our punch list items or? Yeah, that one right there.
No, Fund 070 was set up for construction, any construction, not just the K-5 building. It's for the growth of the district in general. 30% of our TIF revenue is diverted into the 070. We also use the 070 to pay back our certificates of participation financing. So you want extra money in that because you have to pay those. Well, they're not debt payments, but I consider them debt payments. They're lease payments. So that's why we have some cash available.
And we don't have like expired, like this isn't expired money, right? Like we can keep it as long as we need it.
No, the 070 can only be open for 10 years. So we're in year 6. So I've been discussing with our financial attorneys, Densmore and Scholl, what our options are, so I can present to the board what my suggestions would be if you're interested in hearing that. So.
We're always interested in what you think.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, so right now we're in year 6 of having this fund open, and we have 4 years left on this particular fund. So what we do with it and how that's handled and whether or not, I know you can transfer general fund monies into a PI account, so my question to legal is there a limit about just creating a secondary PI or permanent improvement account that we can put construction money into, so that it's, yeah, protected and available for construction? So they're researching all that and they're gonna get back to me, so there are a few options that I'm trying to figure out. We need a long-term plan for growth, of course, so that's why this was created in the first place, but apparently we need more than 10 years. So.
Okay, and then the cash summary report, did anyone else have any questions on the cash summary report for December?
I'm trying to figure out how to do this without closing it every time.
You just go back.
I tried it, won't let me get back. And every time I close it, it takes me out and I gotta reopen the agenda. What am I doing wrong,
When
Jacob?
you click the link on the agenda, see if it'll open when you click the scrolling wheel. Tells you, and that's like.
Sorry, it's pertaining.
When you click it, it takes you back down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
does
takes me back
too.
now.
And they have to go
It does on the board doc, so I think it's
Yeah.
it's just a flaw in the system. I kept it somewhere, and it doesn't take you back to where you were, you gotta scroll all the way
Way to
back.
the
to the
top.
detail, or we're not to the detail check or whatever, is that next?
No.
Okay, yeah, I didn't have any more questions on.
So do you have a suggestion, Jacob? Sorry.
What happens if you click the link with like the scroll? So usually that'll open in a new tab.
Scrolling. Okay.
Push down and put it.
My goodness. Well, that happened.
Well, that worked well.
Sorry.
See, so if you click that.
Oh, okay.
perfect.
It'll open it in a new
Now,
tab.
where did you click?
Click the wheelie.
Yeah, when you go to click on the link, you just.
There we go. I
Well,
learned
now I
something
won't
new
lose my
today. Thank
mind
you, Jacob.
next,
I appreciate
No worries.
that.
Don't wanna flip my laptop.
I'm like, oh,
Oh, you
that
should have
happened.
seen me. Half of the time I spent was just getting back to where I was.
I still can't do it like this, but I'll give it a shot. Did I get it to do
Yeah,
it?
it's over on the end.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Okay, detailed check register for January.
Yes,
Okay.
Yep.
okay, does anybody else? So on the first, like down a few lines, the Miami County ESC deduction, other adjustments, and then the JV is that journal voucher for tuition and expenditures.
Yes.
What are these?
Miami County ESC, all school districts usually have to choose an ESC. Ours is Miami County. It's an educational service center. These are deductions that come out of our bi-monthly foundation payment from the state. So all that money that you see from the state, I have to put in a receipt that matches the total amount from the state. And then I have to do checks that show the deductions that come out. And that's what you're gonna see is Miami County ESC, they take the bare minimum out of the foundation, and then other adjustments are usually CCP or could be excess cost or things of that nature when we're billed from another district for services provided to our students that are open enrolled in their location. And then JB 53 is tuition for most of the time is for students with disabilities as a just like the JD 53 SF 14 are expenditures for special needs kids that are going to other schools or getting other services, and the state pays for them, and then they deduct it from our foundation payment. So.
And then down a little bit ways, there's a hotel stay for IDA literacy conference for 2 nights. Do we have a mile radius for lodging of any sort, or do we have anything in place where we say, you know, if it's a minimum of 2 nights or 3 nights, then we'll pay for lodging if it's within 60 miles or?
I don't think board policy is that specific, but I always tell people if you're going for a day, just you're only getting mileage if you're staying in Columbus for more than, 2 days, then yeah, you could have a room because it would cost us more mileage round trip each time going up there. So I will have to check policy. I don't know off the top of my head. I know there's a limit on meals and things of that nature, but I can't recall off the top of my head. These individuals went to some needed training for that Mr. Cochran, I think, approved. I can't remember. So yeah.
Yeah, it was a Title I, like off of the fund code or whatever. It said it was a Title I, but I guess it doesn't matter what
Reading.
they went for.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
just
the
like
reading
some
trading,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, if you verify if we have policy, then maybe that's something we need to discuss and set a policy on whatever we wanna do. I mean, you can make an argument for both sides, because I went to the conference and it would have been very nice to stay the night in Columbus, because you miss out on a lot of the stuff that goes on at night. But yet I was only 60 miles away, so an hour I could be home too, so I felt guilty charging $150 for a hotel, and I only lived an hour away, so I didn't. But yeah, so we could look into something like,
But
Yeah,
if you're,
memory
but if you're going
services
for
was
more
like
than
it.
one day,
yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
said, that there's, like the
I think it
conference
was
should
like
have
a
been.
2 to
Right,
3 days.
sure.
Yeah.
Right, but as long as it's in the policy, then it's good, then everybody knows what she can reimburse for and what she can't. And that would be a board decision. And then, page,
if I were the treasurer, I would want to take the one that was leased.
yeah, at least.
I would want to honor the one that was leased. Right,
Least, I mean,
in
That
the least
cost.
cost.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we have
Yeah.
we have a $20,000
Right.
limit.
mhm.
But but mileage is, computed on where you leave, so your round trip might be less than staying over and food, because if you're staying over, you get your food allotment too. And your mileage on top of it.
Do we get per diem for training? No, yeah, so all you get reimbursed for is,
What do you mean? Food? Yes, they get reimbursed for their meals.
Not for day training, I don't think, do they? If you stay over, you get reimbursed for food. You get mileage, you get housing, and you get your food.
Right,
But if you
unless it's offered by the train.
Yeah,
But they don't usually offer you dinner, so if you're staying overnight, we reimburse for dinner. Some places do, some don't, but I can check the policy.
yeah, and then make a note of it, and then we'll look and see if we need to either update it or look at it, review it, or create one. On page 5, there is girls basketball and boys basketball towards the bottom, right above the whole line of payrolls, right after the health insurance premium. And then it was a student activity account, but it was $32.50 for the boys basketball. It looks like $27.50.
You passed it.
Where am I going?
Yeah, right there.
Right down at the
Yeah,
bottom.
there. See boys basketball, girls basketball.
Mhm.
So it's like $5,000, but it doesn't say, so is that, do we pay for tournaments? Would this be a tournament we're paying for? Would this be, what would cost?
It's a $419, so I'm assuming it's a payment to Dragonfly, which is our payment service that handles our officials' costs. So we usually give them money in it, to cover all of our officials when they're providing services and over the game, and then they handle the actual payment of the officials, tracking it and providing 1099s to them.
I think it might be actual supplies that they bought, because now that my email account's active again, I'm getting bills from athletics.
I don't appreciate it.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden I'm getting all these, it's like, why am I getting all these? And one of them was a large, I just said it, I said, here, Damon, I think this is yours, I'm not paying this. So it's probably, it's probably the season supplies of all the things that
Well,
they're gonna need.
there's other charges in here that go to like sporting goods stores.
Yeah, cause
So-
there's like a bajillion different things, there's brackets, there's, I mean, you need nets, you need
shirts.
Right, with different vendors and you see it, right?
Yeah,
Like different-
And they do look around for the best deal, so maybe you get all this stuff for cheap from this, but you know, you can pick this up over here, so. Yeah, they make sure that they're getting best bang for the buck, so I think that's what it is, cause one of the invoices is right around 3,200 that I got.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
Yeah, if it's a supply or purchase for supplies, the object code would be 500. This is 400. So I'm thinking I can go back and look based on what's on the PO, but from memory, I don't remember every check. We cut over 70 checks in the month of January. So,
right, yeah, I wasn't asking them.
yeah, I can look.
And then, on page 18. At the very bottom, the hearing audiology and the vision orientation, so are these our ESC contracts? There's a total of 38,000. It's like the last two lines on page 18.
Yeah, Montgomery County ESC. So we paid them 14,000 for hearing and audio, I can't say that word, services, and vision and orientation and mobility, the 24,000. So that's the Montgomery County ESC that we got those services from.
And so is this an annual expense?
No, monthly, quarterly. I'd have to look and see which PO that is, but they will bill us either monthly or quarterly. So open quarterly.
Orderly, I would think.
Yeah, I think it's quarterly, so I'll double check. Yeah.
So do we have like one main contract, we sign a contract with them and say it's like $50,000?
Nope, the board approved different contracts with them, so at the beginning of the year, so I think it was in August or
Yeah, like
September.
Last
Yeah.
summer, just as school was starting.
Yeah,
But, so they sign like one contract, so we sign a contract saying you provide audiology services. But then when they perform those services, does that come off of what we've already paid them? Or do we can we use unlimited services? So if we pay $50,000 for audiology, if we had 5 kids tested or 50 kids tested, would it be the contract amount?
they usually will estimate our contracts based on our prior usage of their services, and then they do a true up or a reconciliation at the end of the year. 9 times out of 10, we end up having to pay them more. But yeah. Or they give us a check back. I haven't had that happen here yet. So yeah, they do an estimate based on what we've used in the past. They send us a contract, and then based on our services and what we actually use, we more than likely will get another bill for whatever we ended up using throughout the year. So we pay them based upon their estimate of services.
Okay. On page 23, towards the middle, it says CPP, but I think you mentioned it's supposed to be CCP, which makes more sense. It's the accounts payable Sinclair Community College. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, like the 5th entry.
Yeah, the CCP, yeah,
And then, so those are books. So why do we buy books from Sinclair?
because we have students enrolled in college credit plus classes, and we're required to buy their books.
Have to do it.
Right, well, I'm just asking because I didn't know that. I couldn't understand why we'd be paying college for books when we have curriculum books through the school, right? So that's what I was asking.
No, if they go to Sinclair and have like books at the bookstore, then we pick that up, so those are not like books we get here.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But this is because they're enrolled in the college credit plus program, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's technically still a high school class, but they're getting college credit, so that's why.
Yep.
We're buying
Correct.
college books.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then the next line down, it says it was an insurance broker, Highland Administrative, for liability for new elementary building. So is this basically our insurance for that facility?
Yeah, we have our insurance, liability insurance through Ohio School Plan. Highland's the third-party administrator that helps us with that. When we got our certificate of occupancy and when we approved our liability insurance at the beginning of the year in July, we made the comment then that until we get a certificate of occupancy on the new building, once we get it, we'll have additional costs that we incur. And of course, that's the final premium for the new building, which is $12,226 to finish out the year. So prorated till the end of June.
Oh, gotcha, okay, because it's on fiscal year,
Mhm.
okay. And then that last line, commissioning construction, it was a capital project, so was that 70?
That's part of the building project. That's a PO that was issued back in 21, I think, for Stan and Associates, because they do all the commissioning and reporting, and as they bill out as they finish their items. So.
Quick question on that page. I see custodial items like 3,100 paid to Janeco. Is that through EPC or is that a better deal than EPC custodial supplies?
Yeah, it's not through the EPC. That is a vendor that the district's been using. You know, I couldn't tell you if it's a better deal. I haven't had an opportunity to dig into expenses like that yet because I've been, yeah.
I mean, I was just, I mean, $3,100 if you could save it through EPC is, I mean,
Yeah.
it's money back in your
Is it not mandatory that we have to go through, what did you call it?
EPC.
EPC, so it's not mandatory that we have to go through EPC first and then go up to, because that's how that works, right? It's a discounted rate for different items that
It's
they've
a
already.
co-op buying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a co-op. And I know they have a custodial.
Yeah, we
supply
buy
section.
all our food service stuff and our paper and other things through them. So, yeah. I'm not sure what their custodial stuff is right now, so.
So could you
have to
take a
look.
look? Could you-
I guess, yeah.
And then would that be something that we perhaps would put in policy if we find out that items are much cheaper or greater savings and not a pain to acquire and stuff like that, because I know sometimes that can be encumbered too. But would that be something that we should look at as far as that your first go-to is always that store? And then after that, then if you can't find it, they can go downtown and get it or go to another local vendor.
Yeah,
I'll speak for myself. I don't know that you need a policy. I mean, it's, you know, we're all looking to get the best deal and make our dollars go as far as they can. Despite, you know, what some folks think out there, that's the name of the game.
Right, I totally agree.
So, you know, policy or not policy, that's generally how we operate, is you're looking. That's bang for a buck.
Right, and I agree, but typically, so we had something similar in the military and we always had to go through them first. And before we were ever allowed to go anywhere else, we always had to prove that either they didn't have it on hand, it didn't fit to whatever we needed or whatever, because everything there was contracted at a much cheaper rate than if we went down to Best Buy or something like that. So, or standard practice, if you want to call that, or your, maybe the guidelines or something, but just so it's standard practice, and if that is a true statement that items there are cheaper than the items that we get downtown. And then is there a tax, like you get a tax savings too, because we're a school, so if you go through.
We're tax exempt.
we're
on all
tax
purchases.
exempt.
Oh, even if we go anywhere?
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I mean, it doesn't hurt to see if there's an equivalency. It might not be the same thing. If we can save money.
Right.
Save the money.
Yep.
And keep it in our general fund for other things.
I agree. Page 24. On the very top, there was a November lease payment. What were we leasing? It was like 3,500 bucks.
Copiers and printers.
Okay. And then, oh, that's just monthly?
Yes.
And then does that include, so if somebody else owns the copiers and the printers, and then does that come like with the maintenance and all that stuff too, and the
Yes.
toner and all that and everything? Then the next one down, it was COPS. You said that was certificate of participation.
That's how we finance the new building, certificates of participation. It's a lease. We lease the property to some investors and we have to pay them back for our property. And then we have a TPA, which is US Bank, and they handle
getting all the investors their money when we make their payment, and they charge an annual fee of $750. So,
Okay.
You got forklift for $900.
Yeah, that's my next
How
question.
about that?
That is good. Where and why do we use a forklift?
Lift heavy stuff.
Thank you. I was aware of that. Usually you see them in warehouses and stuff like that. They don't come in full drive. I would expect the forks on a tractor before I would have
Skids
forklift.
on paper, tires.
boxes.
It was a transportation incident first. So that they have to move in and out. Yeah, Travis is a lot of things, but lifter, many tires and those types of things. Oil.
Right. That's what I'm saying, that normally I would think that you'd have forks on your tractor to do the same thing that a forklift do. Typically you see a forklift in a warehouse because you can't get through any dirt, you can't go grass with them, it's just strictly on solid concrete. So that's why I was just asking why we needed a forklift and where we would use it. But we do have a tractor though too, right?
Like a skid loader.
What sort of tractor?
Well, I think we do have skid loader would work too, because you can put forks or a bucket on a skid loader, it'd be the same concept. So the skid loader couldn't do the paper and the lifting tires and.
I'm not gonna ask.
The need at the bus garage was like times a week that they need it, and they were running in times where Travis couldn't get it because Derek or Todd were using it elsewhere. Also, it was a great answer.
I would say that $900, yeah.
If
that
it
is
wasn't
real
working.
cheap.
It works, it's like a tank.
Mhm.
But you have a mechanic taking care of it.
Oh, the bulk permit postage, which was right under the forklift. I'm guessing maybe the newsletter, is that what it was? Is it what do we mail? And I saw a different line item for the newsletter for $1,800.
Yes.
So is this also a mailing of like newsletters or?
No, you have to pay the postmaster to
Oh.
have bulk
Yeah.
mailing.
Both really
Yeah.
permit.
You have to pay for your permit, so that's to pay for the permit. And then we pay for the printing of the newsletter. It goes
Gotcha.
out using that postage.
Okay, yeah, maybe that, I didn't realize it was two different items. Then down further. Oh, like the psych services and when a speech, basically psych services and speech services, are those full-time positions?
That's the Miami County Educational Service Center,
Right.
and yeah, they're Hoke. Yeah, those aides, they're here on a regular basis.
Mhm.
And that's a monthly bill.
Okay, but like, I thought that the psych services that, Mr. Benjamin, I thought he is here all day, right? Like those guys do an 8-hour day type of thing?
So Brandy is here 3 days a week, and her monthly cost is $6,700. Yeah, ESL instructional services.
And then, so those guys would just run off an 8-hour day and not a per student type of thing?
No, OT services, yeah, they'll come in and provide occupational therapy services to students based on what's needed on their IEPs, and what's been scheduled. So I can't speak in great detail to that because that's not my area of expertise at all. But so if they write in the IEP that this student needs an hour or 2 a week, then that's what OT services comes in and provides those services to all our students whenever it's necessary. And that goes for speech, which is usually like half an hour a week or something like
It just
that.
depends what, the sum of all the time that we pull out of IEPs and or in the case of the psychologist, caseload.
Right.
And there's a certain number you get at where it's like, okay, one person can do all of that.
Right.
So those are the variables in there that help us determine when we sit down with the ESC and say, okay, here's what you've been using the last couple of years. Is there anything, you know, any move-ins that you know about that increase or folks leaving here? It might decrease, and so it's kind of a guesstimate then that we kind of say, okay, these are the services that we're projecting for the next year. And usually it's never enough, right? We get build again, but that happens when you're growing. So you get folks that move in and have needs. That's how all of that is computed.
Do we get all our one-on-ones from the ESC?
We have a few that are in-house now.
Okay. So what decided who came from the ESC and who we hired?
Yeah, these were done before our arrival. So
Okay, so you don't know rhyme or reason? Okay.
if they're a one-to-one aid, I hate to pull the aid from the student if they're accustomed to them,
Yeah.
so.
I'm not saying, oh, I
Yeah,
just-
so.
Student focus.
No, you do
So,
not want to, you can't remove a one-on-one.
So, you know, as we've been able to sit and discuss and see where, what services are needed and, you know, we've been reducing that contract each year, from, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I was just,
And it's the same concept like with ESC, is that like at a reduced rate versus if we had to hire somebody from a?
No, it's not at a reduced rate. It used to be, it was shared services. So they'd say, okay, we have an aide that's gonna work at 2 or 3 different districts. You're all gonna share the cost. Well, that's cheaper than having to hire your own aide and offer them insurance, right? So you would just
Right.
split the cost plus pay their administrative fee of usually 4%. That's no, and when we were smaller, that was a pretty good bang for your buck. And so I can see why that was done. Now as we're getting bigger and we need these services on a daily and more often, we look at when and how we can add these services in-house. So, but like I said, on the aides, it's never been I usually stay out of it. I'm just the treasurer, but I'm not, but I wouldn't want to pull an aide from a student when they're accustomed to them. Yeah.
I agree.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, that wasn't even
we're
brought up
Yeah,
as part of the
Yeah,
discussion.
no, I'm just
Yeah.
saying that's why we didn't take them off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
so-
you have to keep the one-on-one with the
Yeah.
child, yeah.
Mhm.
I just wondered.
Just to finish that, it's not unusual to see a district that has some aides from the ESC and some, they were in.
Just asking.
Yeah.
So then the next one was the Tuffy Brooks, which I believe is a sports store.
Yeah,
And then it was boys basketball and girls basketball. So again, you're saying 519?
519 are supplies.
Supplies, okay. Then on page, does anyone else have any? Stop me in.
Yeah.
Page 26. And then it says, it's like third of the way down, school nurse from Fidelity Healthcare. Is this for one month? And this is for our nurses or like our?
Or is it a sub nurse?
The dates are right here, 10/15 to 11/11. That's what we were billed for 20,594, 597.50. They're nurses that are with students. So they're
Yeah.
via IEPs, yeah.
Yeah, the
So,
one-on-one nurse.
yeah, most of the time they're one-to-one nurses. Yeah.
And their ones like if the child had a tracheotomy, say, or something, I don't know what all the medical things are, but whatever it would be.
I
or a
assume,
feeding tube
yeah.
Or something. That would be those kind of.
Yeah, we
things.
spend about 150 to 175,000 a year on nursing services.
And then at the very bottom, it was game one, it's another sports store, so it must just be, it looks like just equipment. You know, and supplies and stuff.
Jerseys and equipment.
And then page 29, the telephone charges, though that is just a have a standard phone for the elementary and junior high? Is that what that is? Just our phone, is it not, it's not so.
I'm
So,
trying to,
oh, it's very, like, literally, they free up from the bottom.
Spectrum.
that's regular phone service.
And then the high school, is that separate? Will we get a separate bill for those phones?
Yes, I mean, we try to charge them out to each one as they come in, so. So we know what each building costs and we can look at that kind of stuff, so. I'm assuming, yeah, I gotta check. But, you know, it should have a high school, unless it's on the same one as the junior high, because that's been done a lot here too, so.
And then on page 31, at the very top, it was Google Workspace. I'm guessing, is this for like Google Classroom and those related type of, like our Google package, or whatever you call it? Page 31 at the very top.
You had
You
it.
had it,
Now,
yeah, at the very top right there.
Yep, right there.
Is that like our Google Classroom or whatever other Google stuff that we do?
Yep.
And then the Finch robot, a few more down, from Bird Brain Technologies.
Passed it. There it is.
yeah, that's an 019 grant, I think that's Miss Ayers grant for her that she got from, I think it's Tip City Foundation. They're building a robot.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then the tutoring, a couple more lines down, it was paid to Ginger Midland for tutoring.
Yeah.
Was that like in, do we have tutors in the school or?
no, these are services she provided in November to a specific student. I'm assuming it was home tutoring.
Probably just.
Yeah.
That's all my questions. Anybody else have any? Questions? No? Nope, you got one. Okay.
Appreciate all the detail. It was enlightening.
Oh. Yeah, I mean-
Looking deeper into those.
And I just like to reemphasize again, this is not questioning, I mean, we're just trying to learn, so. And look at these things in great detail, and where we can save money, and we can't, where we're spending, that's fine. So we did the detail register. And then we've got all the foundations, so you want to talk this one?
Teachers have been applying for grants from the Tip City Foundation. Those are the ones that have been awarded. Congratulations to all of them. I think I put the copy of the letters that we received. We have to create an account for each of them to use, and so that's all the 019, keeping in mind that's local grant money, that's not the general fund money. So then 200 is a student activity account, high school prom. They currently work with a class of 2024, and it gets a little confusing for Miss Wolford, and I talked about it. She requested a separate account. I'm okay with that. That makes sense to me. So I'm asking the board's permission to create a new student activity account for just for prom. Then applied for and received another school bus purchase grant. It gave us a whole 2,000. I don't think that covers a tire, but you know, you get what you can get, maybe a tire. And then last year when we had 200 kids show up on our doorstep, I applied for some homeless grant money because a lot of those kids were refugees and things of that nature. And we didn't get it last year, but then they gave us 16,500 this year from ARP or ESSER money. So Mr. Crispin and I are talking to different stakeholders and administrators to see how best to use those funds, and then a plan will be presented to the board. But I need to open an account and get it, you know, on the book. So just asking for your permission to do that.
Did you have to apply again this year, or
No,
did they
I
just,
put yeah,
just the holdover from last year?
yeah. I did an application last year and they couldn't help us last year, but then they gave us money this year, so.
About 230 bucks a student.
Yeah. Mhm. certificate of availability, as you, well, maybe you guys don't know, in June, in March, we lost our AP person for a while, and then I was sort of doing all accounts payable and receivables and treasurer, and had a heart attack in June, and then, so,
One fell through.
one fell through the cracks, so we didn't have a PO and to pay for the modular rentals for, May and June. Before they came and took them away. So I put the PO in as soon as we received the bill, because they said, hey, you haven't paid this. I think it went to our previous AP's person's email. So, of course, they're not here, but so I just need the board's approval because my authority ends at 3,000 according to Ohio Revised Code, to pay for things that a PO wasn't already in place for. We had the money, we just didn't have a PO in place, so I need the board's approval to pay that since it's over $3,000. Amended certificates of available resources and appropriations for December and January. Amended certificates, those are pretty much just my estimate of what revenues we have coming in. That changes every month. When we add all those accounts, I've got to add revenues for the 019s, and so those kind of things will change all of your estimates throughout the year, your certificates of availability. And so I like to do one every month because the change could just be 500 and it could be 10,000, it could be like for the month of February, as I'm going through what we're getting in state funding, we're actually probably going to get 3 million more than I had on my original estimates. So I increased our revenues for doing that in February. So I'll ask you to approve that in March. So that's what the amended certificate summary is. You guys are required to approve by fund according to board policy, and then the appropriation recap is where we're spending that money. And so the AppCom report is appropriation comparison, right? So that is looking at what our beginning cash is, what our carryover appropriation, carryover encumbrances, which is your outstanding POs at the end of the year that didn't get spent at last year, plus your revenues for this year minus your appropriations, just to make sure you're not over appropriated. It's just a way to quickly go through and make sure you're not over appropriated in any fund. So that's why I provide it to the board. So, you guys have questions? That's all I have.
Right, looks like we're on to you, right? For superintendent's report.
Yeah, great. So, next, yeah. So next Tuesday, we will go through the important dates, provide an updated personnel chart, which is we're in the new year, we're starting to get activity, resignations, that type of thing. We'll start making that available. Enrollment update is there. Through on the enrollment projection chart at the top of the header, it talks about simple spitballing computation I use to do those projections. And so I went ahead and updated it with our current enrollment for each grade level, and obviously that changed all of it. The numbers for the subsequent years, but about that. Provide an update on the class of 2024 as we're about a quarter and a half out from graduation, and then give you an overview of the special presentation.
I did it again. I'm sorry. I know. I'm sorry.
Trying to get through faster.
Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry.
And then just an overview of our special presentation scheduled for the remainder of the school. That will be in detail next Tuesday. Now, items that we seeking your approval on. Under item 7, recommendations for classified personnel. Is an item A, Jake Carlton has been our full-time sub for that second shift position. Have a new retainer. Should have probably done my disclaimer up front. First time I've ever tried to talk with plastic in the mouth. No worries. You're sitting beside me. It's Reagan has to.
I got glasses, I'm okay.
Shields up.
Splash guard.
But anyways, Jacob, it's kind of been a trial period. It's not an extra spot on that custodial staffing sheet. His name's been in there for the last couple of months. We're pleased with his work and like to make him a full-time employee with us. We have a request for leave without pay from Ms. Weber, who's our healthcare clinician at BES. I should put that in there to get that added for next Tuesday. Then have a resignation from Sarah Taylor, who's been a first-year secretary for us at BES. She's going into some good things and with her other business. Thank you for the service. Questions on?
For William Murray, for the
Yes.
custodial,
Yeah,
it didn't say is he gonna be a substitute at any time? Oh, I thought I read,
any shift
Any
that he
shift, yeah.
wants, and in either building. So
okay. Cause he's the current gentleman who does a lot of second shift substitution right now.
Yeah, he has done.
Oh, then he's a sub now, so like if he's,
William Murray is he's just a sub.
Yeah.
He's just a sub.
oh, okay. So like when somebody gets sick or if they don't show up, then you call him.
Mhm. And hope that he's free. He's retired gentleman.
Oh, maybe fishing or.
Yeah.
Oh, and then for the secretary, so when will we advertise that position?
As soon as we approve this next Tuesday,
Okay, is that the rule? Like you have to wait until? I'm just asking because like civil service, that those people would have, you have to be out of the billet before you can advertise it, so is it the same way?
Something else you said.
We need a translation screen that's kind of over there with all the acronyms. It's like, what is that?
So technically, just because we have a letter of retirement, we can come back and say, we'll take that.
Oh, I see,
Yeah.
okay,
So rule of thumb.
just wait
like
until
to wait.
a done deal.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Any other questions on the classified personnel recommendations? Okay, we're on to recommendations for certified personnel. I'll go through them and then entertain questions. So in item A, we have Zoe Yagman is advancing on the salary schedule because of her coursework and credits attained. Item B, Zachary Marinelli is going to come in and do long-term subbing for us for middle school physical education, Mr. Garlow. And then for ORC, once you have a long-term sub, continuous 60 days. On the 61st day, they get bachelor's step 0 salary prorated for the remainder of the school year. And anytime there's a change in pay, it has to be.
I asked the board to approve.
Yep, so that has to happen. Yep.
Where does the 60 days start though? Because Mr. Garlow looks like he just, I mean, unless he was already out of the building before January 5th, it looks like his.
No, this is for not for Mr. Garland. This is
Well,
for
it
my-
says phys ed.
No,
This is
Oh,
a different.
this is
below that.
Well, I was going up to, I'm sorry, I was referring that back up to Zachary.
Yeah.
Up above because it says long-term sub for him as well,
Yeah, Heidi Henning's our sub in math,
right?
right?
Yeah.
So if you remember, our long-term subs are, what we say, it's 100 day, or $100 for the first 30 days.
Right.
And then 31 to 60 is 200, and then 61 required by state statute to move them to teacher salary. So right now, it's a possibility that we may have Mr. Marinelli longer than 30 days. So that's why we're putting him on the long term
Okay, it's kind of,
schedule.
yeah.
I
It seems premature if it looks like Mr. Garlow will be back in early April to be putting Mr. Marinelli on the long-term list.
Things happen.
So, So is
Medical
it-
things.
so, but his pay wouldn't start until he goes through those days, right? So what would be the benefit or the harm of either having him on a long-term list or not? I guess I don't understand how, like, I don't understand
I think-
necessarily.
they have to work 30
Yeah.
consecutive days, so if he's filling in for Mr. Garlow or whomever in one position, he has to be in that specific position for 30 days at $100. If he misses a day, we start the clock over. So, say he works 28, I hate that when it happens, because when they work 28 consecutive days and then for some reason they miss a day, that takes them all the way back to day one. Not our rules, Ohio Revised Code.
Thank you, Ursula.
Yeah, so then,
But
if he doesn't make it to the 61st day in that position, he doesn't go on the teacher's prorated contract,
So
so
he wouldn't get the bump up to 200.
he would not unless he's there for 30, till his
31.
31st day, yeah.
Regardless if he's on that list or not.
But doesn't he have to be classified a long-term sub to
Yes.
get the bump up? If
Mhm.
he's just the sub and he works
Yes,
41 days, then if he's not declared a long-term sub, he's only getting.
Yes.
to check.
Is it?
I don't know, there's something like that that says, even if they're just a sub, the same role
Mhm.
for 60 days, 61 triggers that, no matter what.
It makes payroll more comfortable if it's spelled out. Yeah.
It's coming, and for us, we're doing something a little bit different for our long-term subs who are committing. They're actually doing.
Yes,
I mean, I understand. It just seems like when it's listed up there, it's already like that person is entering that 60-day beyond. That's what it sounds like.
well, and your normal subs just usually, I know we have an overwhelming need for subs, but they don't serve in the same position daily, right? They're covering whoever needs it that day, so.
Yeah.
The subs that are subbing in the same position, for more than, a week, they're oftentimes tasked with doing plans and things of that nature. So it gives them a little added security that they're getting paid. On the 31st day, it'll automatically go to 200, so it makes payroll feel more comfortable, me, that I've got the board's authority, that when they hit the 31st day, they're considered a long-term sub. And we can go ahead and take care of their pay for them, and we're not having to wait.
Mr. Christmas, it's just a proactive thing
Yeah.
in case something were to happen with him and his medical condition.
Yeah,
Et
I
cetera.
really can't speak to
Sure.
that. I get other information on that, but I
Right.
think that, I would put it on here if I didn't think it was in the realm of
Yes.
possibility
Sure.
that we may need.
It's the same rules still apply, right? So it's the 30 days, and then you're just saying that makes it easier for, you don't have to come back and ask us, okay, now can we?
Bingo.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
We will when he gets to his 61st day, because we're putting him on the teacher's contract. Yeah, teacher's salary schedule.
Same as Heidi.
Yes.
And is that like what you normally do then too, same concept, so then you don't have to go through the whole permission thing again?
Right.
Okay, let's see, we have requests for leave without pay from 3 of our classified folks, or certified, sorry. Under E, we have our monthly approval of substitute teachers from the ESC. And then our spring supplemental contracts and volunteer recommendations. And just to remind the board, the items in green are things that have been added since we sent the notification out to you all. So that way, when you go back in, it's like, just pops out. So.
Thank you for doing that. I
Yes.
noticed it
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, that was-
It's like, oh, now there's green.
Yeah, I'm this is one of my old ones.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's weird.
So those will be the recommendations for certificated personnel next Tuesday. Questions, we can go ahead and move on and talk about, again, so we're going to recommendations for this. Let's skip that part. So item A, I'll just touch on these and then we'll open it up for questions. So the overdue fall update from Neola. We have an approval of ESER art plans. Really cleaning up that one, it's like $282. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. 285, and then a little more, we want to designate $19,000 left in the ARP state activity fund. Use those for additional Chromebooks to support our one-on-one effort. Those things take dating. 2020, in item D, we have the 24-25 course planning handbook. There should have been all the changes from the first few pages. I think most of those are additions to the book. As well as before you get to the title page. So all those before that are additional classes, as well as recommended sequence changes in science and in
First 9 pages.
thanks.
So what's new for this coming year then?
The items in those 9 pages, new courses,
Okay.
As well as sequence changes, which is, okay, if I start taking Algebra 1 here, my choice as a sophomore is
Yeah.
this, that, and the other, and then the same for science. And those changes align with basically the content standards and the OSTs. That's right.
And while you're in there, I thought I said, or I saw that there's Spanish offered in-house and Edison. Why would we do that? Why we have to do separate?
Yeah, so I'll get clarification, but what I believe it is you're gonna have, out of a class of 150, you're gonna have some kids that are just interested in taking Spanish, and getting the requirements just for Spanish one.
Right.
Others want to do the
Like a college level.
college CCP, college credit plus, and get the college credit. So, and then it usually is sometimes a different exam that they have to take at the end in order to secure that college credit. But I will have the answer that's specific to Bethel.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because I thought, I only went to one of those meetings, like the initial one we were last year, and I thought it could be the same class, like the teacher I thought was certified to either be at college level
Correct.
or high school level. So you could all be in the same class, like we could all take Spanish, but you might be getting credits for it because you
Right.
signed up for it and I wouldn't. Okay, so then,
And it looks reported out there.
right, yeah. So then we don't even really need it.
I know sometimes because John took some of those and he had additional requirements that he had to do as far as like testing or other things to get the Urbana credit or whatever other credit, you know, in the same class with everybody. It's just, I don't know.
For Spanish, there's nothing different.
Right, so
It
that's.
is literally your child signed up to get the SN credit, there's no different test,
Nice.
there's no different course requirements.
Just have a work session.
Thank you for the input.
But yes, that was my question, is why would we have two of them? We don't need.
I'm glad we can
Yes.
offer all the.
My guess is we have to list the college description in there. Going back to my days of high school.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it'll probably be the description that would be the same, it's just one would be highlighted. Well, then you just highlight it as a CCP course, right? We just identify it as a, oh, you'll get it, so.
Yep. We have our re-up with Ohio High School Athletic Association. And that's one we all belong to. It's a public school system. So definitely recommending that we continue that. Various reasons. Yeah, because otherwise we're traveling to Kentucky and
No
West
postseason.
Virginia. And tournaments. Yeah. We have to be on the outside looking at it now.
Is there a reason, I know we've talked about this in the past, but I just can't recall right now. Why do we do it so early in the year when it's not really due to be signed until June of 24?
They send it out and when I get it, I put it in front of the board.
And I always have the same question, but as I've been going to some of these trainings and stuff, and apparently all schools do it at this time. Because there was another lady I met at training last weekend at the OSBA thing, and they had just done theirs on their board the other night, so I'm just going off of.
Okay, just to get it out of the way, so we can
Right.
get forgotten.
Because HB 68 is coming effective in April, and a lot of people have to hold off to see how that's gonna move. Apparently everybody's.
Okay, great. Item F, shared school funding.
Yes. I know the board and the community has heard me talk about the fair school funding, for Bethel has been a good thing. And we want to see that it's fully implemented, because right now we're at 50%. Next fiscal year will be at 66.67%, and hopefully the legislation will continue that in the next biennium so that we get 100%. So this is a new nonprofit group that was created to help us make sure that things are going to continue with the fair school funding plan.
The lobbyists.
I hate to call them lobbyists, but they're an advocacy group, so yes, I don't think they like that name, but yes. So it's
resolution to, for the board to say, yes, we want, them to advocate on our behalf, and we want to continue the fair school funding plan. And I think it's $580 for us, which I think is not a whole lot considering that our state funding has grown leaps and bounds because of the fair schools funding plan, so.
30 cents a pupil.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's what it says, 30 cents
Yeah.
a pupil.
So about 2,000 kids, it's about 580, but we'll do the math and get the correct ADM, yeah, so roughly.
Great, thank you. And then, we had a board member asked that we add a resolution of support for the Wayne County Commissioners, Bethel Township trustees. I'd like to speak to.
I will, thank you. Following, the precedent set by the previous two Board of Education groups, a resolution has been brought forth and, kind of noting our opposition to the annexation of the farmland. And this had been at the request in previous times from the trustees. And on February 6th, the trustees passed the resolution opposing the annexation of the 296.236 acres, as well as the Miami County Commissioners. After they received the petition filed by Huber Heights, they came out with a letter saying that they were going to oppose it. They've hired an attorney as well, and they're gonna continue to help fight that for that transfer of that property into Huber Heights. And this was a slight adaptation of the previous two resolutions that the board passed, as well as I incorporated some language that the Miami County Commissioners had used, as well as what our Bethel Township trustees had used. So it's just a culmination of all the things that are on the table now this year compared to last year, or actually it was 2022 and 2021 when the last two resolutions were passed. So it's for your consideration, for review, and recommendations for the meeting next Tuesday night, February 20th, for a vote, for consideration. Thank you.
And then item H is proposal for yet another club school.
Yeah, that's great.
Our kids are, it's fun to see. Kids are getting, showing initiative and creativity and bringing like interests together and creating a club. And so, looking for the board's support and recognizing it. Those are business items for next Tuesday.
I did have a question. Can we just go back up to that section where we were talking about the ESSER funds? We had the two paragraphs, the 200 and some bucks, and then the 19,000. So you have mentioned that you'd like to use this for basically the tech refresh type of stuff. And then were these already accounted for in the budget? Or so I'm just asking if we're going to shift money from, if it's already budgeted for, then we're going to use these funds, and then we still have the same money to use somewhere else. So
I mean, this one's $285. It's
sorry,
not
the
gonna be a
19,000.
whole
yeah, that
big
one's
deal
fine.
in our budget. So this 19,316.18. As far as we have a budget for some tech refresh, but we're all, it's not gonna be, it's not ideal. It's not the max that we probably should have. So that's why we said, well, we'd like to have a little more anytime we can get our hands on a little more. Because we don't want to be caught again with more kids than we have equipment. So we just thought this would be the best way to purchase that equipment at no additional really cost to the budget. So
And were these funds also available for perhaps if we needed it, the fencing?
I don't really think so because they are COVID related funds, so.
I haven't heard back.
We were gonna ask the attorney and see because, you know, we've gotta find a reason how that relates back to COVID and stopping the spread of COVID. And we can easily say having more devices on hand for students. They don't have to share, so that stops the spread, but fencing them in seems to be a direct opposite of what they want us to do. So we've asked the attorney, but we haven't heard back yet. So hopefully we will have an answer by next Tuesday.
And then also the SIA. We've asked about, is that also another options to use?
But
that
we were
money
gonna
for?
use Title.
Oh,
Yeah,
Title
Title
III,
III
okay.
for that.
That'll be
There are
okay.
funds there.
Gotcha. And then what are we doing with the policies?
So, we met, Mrs. Leskowitz and I met with, Mr. Barnhorst, who is our new Neola rep. For, new folks, or those that are listening, Neola is, one of two organizations in the state of Oaxaca that create policy. And there is a change in the legislature, new law, new requirements for school districts. They go about creating policy for school boards across the state, and OSBA is the other. And so they have representatives that meet. It used to be quarterly, now it's twice a year. And they bring forth updates, and we're far along. We've been partners with Neola for a long time. So they will bring, if there's been a change in a state law that's going to impact our policy, they will bring us our current policy. Not the raw template, we're starting all from scratch and say, okay, here's what's out of compliance and here's the recommendation from Neola. Well, who is Neola? What are Neola? Neola doesn't have lawyers that's specified in education law. And so hopefully we're all hoping they know what they're doing, right? So and so they make those recommendations, and sometimes those are just, you need to do this, this is crossed out, and this has to say this. And other times we'll get those, we'll sit in those update meetings with the representatives, and there'll be option 1, option 2, option 3, or provided A, B, C, D, E, F, check the ones that are appropriate for your district. And then after that meeting, we bring to the board then those recommendations from Neola, via the superintendent, sometimes the treasurer, because you've got your sections in there, in board policy, and so we bring those to you. And so Mrs. Leskowitz is, she's very interested in policy. And so,
I love policy.
so I wanted her to hear and meet Mark. I needed to meet Mark because he's new. And this one has been overdue. I think I met with Norm back in November, but because we were in transition, I thought we just needed to kick it down the road, but we're really down the road, and we've got a spring update coming, and we need to get rolling on this. So, but my recommendation going forward is, and I've done this in other districts, is add that person or those persons that are really interested in policy and what's going on, and be able to ask questions, to meet with myself, Tina, and then Neola rep. So it's good to have another set of eyes and ears in those meetings, because it can be long. I think the November one was almost 3 hours. So, so as far as, so we're here, and so if we have, there are certain ones that are you have questions, they're just, why is it worded this way? I can hear them. If I don't know the answer, I will have to go back and call Mark and take me through this again. If there are suggested revisions, you heard what that is. If just so you all know, if we're saying, well, we don't like the way this is formatted, or if this is what it says. We make changes, we have to send it back to you, Neola. Mr. Barnhorse cautioned us, but in doing so, doing too much, because we change it too much, Neola won't back us. If we're, we have some legal protection through the,
Yes.
but it has to be in,
Yeah, he said that it has to be vetted through the attorneys again. So like, for example, one of the wordings in the third grade reading said, annually, for an assessment. And I said that when you're talking about K through 3, annually is way too long. Those kids need to be assessed, whatever the expert says, or SME says, maybe it's quarterly, maybe it's monthly, maybe it's whenever. And so I said, why can't we put that in there? And so he explained a lot of this stuff comes right directly from the law, and the law will say annual. So now what we can do is we can go into our administrative guidelines and outline some more of that stuff in there. But if we start adding more to some of those law verbiage, then it has to go back through and vetted through the attorney and stuff. So, but I just want to make sure, because I am a policy person, because if it says annual, then nothing that says that we have to do it quarterly, and then pretty soon we're not doing it quarterly because somebody come back and say we're only supposed to, we only have to do it annually. So I'm very concerned, it's not in writing, it doesn't happen, was my concern with a lot of that. So I did throttle back on quite a bit of my comments. Because I had a lot. And then that's where I learned about administrative guidelines, where it also outlined that a little bit more in detail. And then you can just update those, and you don't have to go through the whole Neola thing and whatnot, but the policy as it states. And then, but that's nothing to say that we can't either write our own policies or add our own verbiage or whatever. And if their attorneys don't like it and we decide that no, we absolutely have to have it, or we confer with one of our, like John or somebody, we can do that too. It's just, you're not gonna get the Neola stamp. And if somebody comes back and says you violated this policy, they're gonna be like, you guys did what you wanted to do. You said you didn't trust us or whatever. You didn't accept our advice. So that gets them off the hook. But it also makes it very difficult to enforce some of this stuff because it is so vague, because it's how the laws are written to be that vague. But like, so for example, like the adding stuff to the agenda, we'd like to have like a 2-day, no more than 2 days out unless it's absolutely, life shattering, an event or something where it has to get added, or some of those things, that those still, we can still put in there. But before they'll put the stamp on, it has to get routed back through their whole review process.
You don't have to, you make that just directly. Use that example.
Which
You just say, Matt and Tina, we don't want any changes 2 days before the regular meeting. Unless there's an emergency, unless you get approval from the president and or vice president. Policy. But going back to your example, and especially for our new folks, I've done a policy read through, start to finish. Hours, just a lot of stuff in. Read it, ask questions. A lot of it is state minimums, that's state law, right? Just like, the number of hours for county, we're way over. We're way over one annual assessment in reading for our elementary. So, kind of goes to show you what state law is, and the bar is like really low. That's not a lot of places. So ask questions and find, as we run into those, I guess I'm saying, inviting questions to say, okay, it says this, what do we do? And as you found out, well, we do iReady 3 times a year, and as well as some other things. So just a plug for us communicate as we go through these updates, and you see things, and, oh, that seems low, it probably is. Yeah, it's fine, it's just the way of learning what we do.
And if I could just add one thing, we are audited based upon policy. If we're following our policy, if we aren't following our policy. So if you make it too restrictive, you're gonna have an audit that just blows up, because there's just not gonna be, there's always gonna be something that happens, that something gets pushed off. And there's always that difference between shall and may when you argue with an auditor. If it says may, then I don't have to. But, we do our best to make it happen. If it says shall, then we have to. And so then if we don't do that, then it becomes a finding for recovery or becomes a slap on our hand in a management audit or anything like that. So I just caution you to make it too restrictive, but that becomes a problem during audit as well.
And that's why I want to have like this kind of discussion here, because I explained too when we met, my background is every time we did something, what does the reg say? So you didn't do it. I mean, you weren't allowed to do it unless the regulation, there was a regulation for everything, it came from DOD levels and it go down to the branch of service and it right down to the office that you'd have your own operating instructions. And so I was used to that mentality. And so I'm learning these policies are a little bit different than regulations and instructions and stuff like that I was used to. So that's why I said that I throttled back up a lot of my comments. But I also didn't want this to be the Jackie show where I go up in his office and say, well, I'd like all these things done. And then I want to make sure, because it's not my beam, it's the board is responsible. The board is responsible for governance. But we need input like that because we certainly aren't trying to make your job harder, but we are also trying to make sure that we have all the bases covered. And you even mentioned too that you went back to and say, well, what's the policy say? So it's going to be difficult to enforce. Like say you're looking at, I don't know what kind of issue you might have, and you ask what the policy says, and you can't do discipline on somebody if that they didn't break any policy. So I guess that's where when it comes to this stuff that there's got to be a balance of where we can still govern and have some order and control, but yet not be too restrictive, but yet still make sure all that stuff gets done. So that said,
it's reasonable to expect that some tailoring can be done, is needed if it fits what we're doing already, or things that have already been in place that maybe weren't captured.
the law wasn't written for Bethel local school district.
Exactly.
The law was written for the state of Ohio or federal level, whatever, but typically it seems to be all of Ohio here. But there might be something that pertains to us that we actually just need a separate policy or whatever the case may be, or just tweak it. So a lot of mine probably could be more so I could just give you the like, this paragraph doesn't make sense, or it belongs up here and that type of stuff. If does anybody else have anything meaty that's in the review that
I just wonder if you were able to bring up because it kept coming up, the adjacent district comments that were crossed out. How did that end up? Or
he just kind of blew us off. I mean, he just kind of like, well, that's what they wrote, and sometimes that's what they do. They basically.
That's the second time I've been.
Yeah. So again, I would say we would just change it then, because it doesn't make any sense. You can't refer to something that's not there.
Yeah, what we can do is just we can circle it, highlight it, send it, and see if it
Because I did the same thing.
sets off a flag.
Because also there was a new revised code, 3313.33 paragraph C, that made some changes that would affect the conflict of interest policy, but he never included it. So I don't know if it, but I look back on the ORC page and it doesn't look like it's been incorporated yet on the page. And they said because it came on H bill 33 or 33. Whatever the big bill was that just passed not too long ago that created a lot of this change and whatnot. And so it might be just that it hasn't hit, and we'll see it next. But like, so for example, on the third grade reading though, the 26-23, I was asking if we can include language to state parents. So in the very last paragraph, it talks about diagnostic assessments and stuff like that. And I'd asked if we can include language to state parents will be explaining the meaning of the results, how it impacts students, contacting the parent via phone or email to notify the results, offer in-person meeting or telecon to explain results in the way forward. And my reason for asking for that is I've been on the recipient of getting some of these reports, and it's not trying to dog any teachers out or anything, but a lot of times I'll get in the mail attached to a report card and it's this bar graph and it just has these scores on it and it doesn't tell me anything. And then I have to go back and maybe was it a MAP or MEEP or NEAT or one of those, all those different testings that they offer. And they come to find out that he wasn't right where he's supposed to be, or he's a little bit lower, but it wasn't identified as well in there. And it caused me a lot of research to do. And had I not done it, I would have realized that he was a little bit further behind than we should have been. So that was one thing I was gonna ask for, like in that guaranteed reading, if we can ask for, or if there's another way around it where you guys have an administrative guideline, or like you said, a directive, or whatever avenue that is, I don't care. I just wanna make sure these parents understand what all these scores mean, especially now with the dyslexia and the science of reading and these assessments and stuff like that. And we have a lot of kids that are struggling in reading, and it's proven off our scorecard and everything else that I'm really a big advocate for reading. And K-3, you learn to read, and after 4th grade, you're reading to learn. And if we don't get it by the time they're in 4th grade, they're gonna be behind probably until they graduate. And then it all trickles through graduation rates, it trickles through the struggles as they get later in school and stuff like that. So that's my background, or that's what makes me want to add these kinds of things to these policies. But again, I'm not gonna bring it to Mr. Chrisman and just say that's what I want. It's gotta be what the board wants. And then with you guys' input on, how your show runs and how the school runs and your process you already have, then, tell me if that's stuff we need to do, or if it's not happening, it can happen, or the case. Does that make sense?
I think what you said was that kind of tweaking based off this policy could be done by you as an administrative guideline, as opposed to a manipulation of the Neola policy, so that if we have concerns in our own district, we could address them through you.
Yeah, but again, I don't want to sound like a beating a dead horse here, or yes, I did. Because you gotta remember, I'm a year and a half ahead as far as being this close to finding out how things came to be right now. And so, something like that, I'd say, well, give me a few weeks, meet with our principals, our teachers, find out. My guess is we just, hopefully we're doing some other things to communicate and do some reach out, maybe not. But I can't sit here right now and say, nope, that's it,
Right.
or we do something else. So I'd rather learn, and if it's something like that, along with you, and find out, okay, how do we communicate to parents?
How can we do it better?
And interpret, and could we do it better?
Yeah.
And my guess is, some of the people behind me here probably have some good ideas of, well, parents really need to just know this. So.
And that's why I asked originally, can we route this through the key players? So if this is 3rd grade reading, can we route this through the ELL and the reading and the Title I and the intervention specialists and stuff like that? But they had to make that, I learned that I wasn't a route that we could take either, right? But you would go back and talk to the teachers and get their input. So, and again, I don't want to write stuff that's going to affect teachers either, or make their job more difficult, but we are student focused and student based, and it's whatever it is for the student. And then quite honestly, for the parent too, to help that student to succeed. And then with all the turnover and stuff too. So again, if I come into a new job, one of the first things is in processing would be read all the instructions for the squadron and then get familiar with what's going on there. I understand that they can't read the whole policy manual when they get hired on, but certainly the stuff that pertains to them, perhaps, I don't know, maybe it is it an onboarding requirement for them to read all this? And if they don't see that, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this, maybe at their last school they didn't. And again, that's where I get back to when it's written and documented, then nobody questions what they're supposed to be.
Yeah, I think we just are searching, I mean, as we learn as a board, we need to learn the process. What's your process? We need you to find out from the teachers, from the principals, what's your process? How do we address this? So if we know what we're doing now, what works, what doesn't work, because we're all focused on student achievement. Nobody's saying, it's good enough that we're a 2-star. I mean, nobody's saying that. But unless we know what the process is, we don't know what the teachers need.
And it's a team effort because we need the parents too. Because I spent many hours reading and learning how to do different tactics to help them read and stuff like that. And I always work with teachers and they always gave me suggestions and stuff like that. And it was always a team effort among all of us. But so that's
Well, there's lots of changes in science of reading,
Right.
and so we'll be talking a lot about. I know there are a lot more policies with that, so.
right.
So,
Well, and that was the biggest one,
Yeah.
actually. But so going forward, if you guys don't have any other input, right, you know, and then, so what we could technically do is I can share these with you, right? And then, any kind of administrative moving stuff around, blah, 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 blah. If there's any change to the meat of something where we'd like to add some verbiage or something, at that point, then we just come back, review the recommendation, and, I mean, does that sound like a good way forward? Does that sound doable?
and then you'll update you, another person.
Well, anyone's welcome to sit on that, but I did offer that, because I'd like.
Because you like policy.
Yeah. For whatever reason, but I just think it makes things run more efficiently. That, yes, he was nice enough to welcome me into their meeting, and so I'm gonna join them, but at no time ever is this like the Jackie show, so you guys are more than welcome to attend. Or take my place, or whatever you'd like to do. Just want that for the record.
I want to share the fun policy.
Yes, or if you see that there's a certain policy where you have a lot of input or a lot of questions, or perhaps, and that would be probably the meeting that you should be there for.
Yeah.
Or let me know ahead of time, again, because usually those happen during the day,
Right.
and several of you work
Mhm.
and take those questions.
Yeah.
There's only one board member allowed in the meeting, or?
Two.
Okay.
Because,
We don't want a quorum.
right,
Right.
but we're receiving information, but we technically, I guess, would be conducting business because we're asking for change.
Talking
Yeah,
about
so
policy.
2, I think, would keep us on the safe side, so not violate the sunshine. Is that a volunteer or volunteer?
I don't want to kick Jackie out. As long as she can stay in, then maybe.
Well, I'll send the dates out.
Okay.
The date, get it.
And again, so another thing I'm trying to do is, it's very easy to run down that rabbit hole doing all this stuff, behind the scenes, or to be proactive. So trying to be proactive to do this sometimes takes away the opportunity to have a group discussion. So that's where I'm also trying to find that balance too, where we need to discuss it so everybody can hear the rationale behind why do we add this or take this out or change this, or don't even know why we inserted the paragraph, but certainly if we're doing this kind of stuff, or changing the way we conduct business or stuff like that, that it has to be here.
Well, that was something we heard so much during the campaign, is about transparency. Well, unfortunately, transparency is dialogue, and it's long meetings, and it's a lot of discussion and talking about things that maybe don't interest you, but interest someone else. So if we're going to be transparent, then people need to see why we're voting on things instead of showing up and voting yes. They want to hear our rationale behind why we think it's good that way. So to be transparent will be dialogue. I mean, public dialogue.
Right.
And it's what people really want. So,
And even though they're not sitting here, there's a lot that are either logged in right now, or they'll go back and they'll do it during their lunch or review it or see what's going on or whatnot like that or whatever. So I was trying real hard not to, because you can easily get side railed into getting all this stuff done, and then you show up to the meeting and say, well, this has already been discussed, so we're good, let's do it. Yeah. But in the same token, that's what we developed or wanted to go back to the work sessions for, hash all this stuff out. So come next Tuesday, when we get ready to approve all the items on the thing, there should be little to no discussion at that point, because we've already hashed it out, we've already discussed it. And like, if points were made up during the work session, the goal was that we can take those back and address those points and then either incorporate it into our decision, maybe it'll change our decision, maybe it'll make us table it, but it'll be done before next Tuesday. So again, we can consider the input, see whether or not we need to act on it, and then, or if we already have, and then be ready to vote, and then it should be.
I would like to ask before we move on, which is a good lead in. So I don't know if this was attached, but I liked this Cliff Notes version of the.
Overview,
For the overview.
yeah.
I mean, it's nice. I don't know if the public had, I don't know if this was an executive thing or the public had access to this, but at a minimum, this Cliff Notes version should be on there. And I really believe in that all the, especially for the second reading, all the policies need to be put on the public side of viewing, because it's been like that. That's been the precedence for, I don't know, 15 years that I can think of. We've always had it because that's the only real chance you can actually see what they are, because, you know, once we approve them, they move off and they go into the regular thing, and it's kind of hard to find them after that. You lose track of what year necessarily that they were updated and things like that. So it's a good opportunity. And yes, I've read them in the past, all of them that were coming up for review. So I appreciate that. If we could add that or make them viewable.
Yeah, the summaries in public view.
They are. The summary.
The overview, yeah.
Okay, can we turn on the others or
That's up to the board.
Yeah, the more, again, the transparency, we're not trying to hide anything here, we're not, and if they have whatnot, or issues where they think that we need some sort of policy or something, I'm all for that.
it's kind of part of the transparency. They know what we're voting on, because if they can't see it, then.
Right, yeah, and quite honestly, I get confused, because my login, now I understand that if I'm logged in, then I can see executive content. If I'm not logged in, then I see public, and then it logs me off all the time, and then I'll be looking for something and I can't find it, but I had a printout of it. So I know it was there somewhere, and yeah, so I didn't even realize that it wasn't public, to tell you the truth.
It's hard unless if you don't log in.
Yeah,
You have to kind of go through it once that way, and
But yeah, I'm good if we can, anytime that we have the first, second, and the first reading, second reading, and voting reading, where do you call it, then. And a whole.
If they're that excited about policy, let them have to listen and let them read it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good policy.
thanks.
Anything else under recommendations for business? Not, we'll roll on. So next week we will hear from our illustrious BEA president and vice president. They're still sitting back there.
Yay.
And we'll have our liaison reports for various board members. Real brief update on our facility. Discussion around the tech committee, and really looking to hear from the board. Purpose, expectations, possible goals, intent, that kind of thing. To help us kind of get our arms around what direction we need to go. We'll take more questions, feedback on the calendar. Again, this is a proposal. We put it out there for 30 days. You'll vote on it. Or what if we end up tweaking it? Vote on it in March.
The teachers senior?
So the calendar committee is, so we start with administration and BA president and vice president. And then, we roll it out then to, or Tracy and Aaron roll it out to their executive committee members. And so that's a pretty broad group. And then it was sent to the staff on Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
For their review.
They're happy? Have you got feedback?
Our folks are so busy. They're not. They're busy working and teaching. I haven't heard any concerns, where of the fair. I mean, that's, but, we've got a lot of training to do, to be honest with you. And it's like, we have, more dyslexia training that we have to get them personal to get done. We have science and reading that's gonna have to be all teachers. All teachers. And we're still waiting for that to come out from DO, the DO.
DEW.
Right. And supposedly it's coming out in March. It's, you know, if we're gonna work, it's, we also have state tests and we need time for teachers to be with kids. Something's gotta give. And so, obviously, having our kids start during the fair is, that didn't go down very well last year, but, you know, staff, we still ended up starting this year, the last couple of days of the fair, we worked with those, staff members that were involved with the fair, big deal. So, to do that, yeah.
So we had that flexibility?
What's that?
You were saying that you work with the teachers and the fair effective,
Yeah.
we have that flexibility?
It was maybe a handful.
Wait till next week or ask now, but,
Give me a heads up. If I don't have an answer, I'll say it.
I was
Say that
gonna
next week.
I know this came up last year, but I don't recall exactly why graduation got moved up 2 weeks. Did we do that on purpose? Because now it's on Sunday, it would potentially be on Sunday night. And that looked like, it would be difficult, I mean, to have families available on the May 19th date of 2025. And it looked like it would be difficult to have any family members attend with that. So last year, we were at Hobart for graduation.
Yeah.
On Saturday evening of a 3-day weekend. This year, that wasn't gonna happen. And now because we had a conflict that, you know, that date moved again, where it's not on Memorial Day weekend. So the proposal for 25 is the same thing. The weekend before Memorial Day, and it's on a Sunday night. So how did we lose having Hobart over Memorial Day weekend? Was that a proposed intentional move? Because now it makes it, I mean, graduation is for the students and the families. Now if their families can't travel or can't spend the Monday, night over, and they can't have grad parties, we've kind of just taken it away from them. So I'm just wondering how we lost, or did we intentionally move from Memorial Day weekend?
Build a calendar around how can we get the most days of instruction, teachers with kids before state testing. I pick April 1st because this district usually that's when we start testing. And so count back from there. It's really not about where graduation is or isn't. It is strictly that. And so, and when our days are up, our days are up. And so that, because we're starting earlier to get more days of instruction before testing, the whole calendar shifts. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really not, I mean, we could go an extra, no, we couldn't go an extra because we're out of teacher days. But we're staying in school just so we can have graduation on Memorial Day weekend.
It was moved off.
It's really not.
It was moved off Memorial Day before.
So that's
And
the
Jimmy-
process. It's really not about hitting Memorial Day weekend for graduation. It's how can you get as many days, teachers with kids before April 1.
Does that really tie into graduation? Couldn't it be in the middle of June if necessary?
You can have graduate, you know, the question is like, when, are people gonna come back with that?
No, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I understand. Thank you for sharing that. The calendar moved up, so
Yeah.
that moved it up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so like two things, so theoretically, though, they could, their last day could be the 18th of May, let's say. And then graduation wouldn't be until Memorial Day weekend, right? There's nothing, they don't have to be in school up until the weekend they graduate, right?
Yeah.
Is that
No,
true?
the seniors get out early, so.
Oh, okay.
They're allowed to, 3 days
3 days?
to prepare for graduation. There you go, policy gal. Get after that one, 'cause that's like old school. But that's still on the books. But yeah, I mean, really, it's, and then as far as the days, I don't really care for the Sunday myself, but we know now that the Career Center now is on that Friday.
Yeah.
He's now stake claim to that, because they've changed venue and I think they're in a multi-year contract. Saturday, my understanding through Mr. Swope, he's the one that actually talks to the folks at Hobart, is it's kind of hit and miss on whether you can get it on Saturday or not. So. Sure. Now, if you'd like me to have graduation at the stadium, I'd love it. The weather's great, or even not so great. There's nothing prettier than a high school graduation outside underneath the lights. But love to do that on Saturday.
That'd be fun.
And I would
Stay
say,
off Sunday. Yeah.
I would say too, I think I had looked up the CTC graduation for this calendar, and I thought their graduation was on Saturday and then ours would be on Sunday. So technically, it would benefit the families
Some
because,
parents.
yes,
Some-
yeah, for the ones that are involved in the CTC, because they're already here for the graduation, for that graduation ceremony, whatever they're calling it, and then they'd be here for the high school too, so.
Okay, well, thank you for the conversation. I
Yeah.
never heard that last year, so I did not know why it changed last year. It's not made clear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry for not getting that.
It's okay. I didn't know.
I think everybody's focused on fair.
This was time to fair.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll entertain more questions, and if I get any more feedback from staff. So proposed positions, yeah, we'll dive into that more, but Tina and I met with Jackie to kind of go through the mechanics of the agenda and she said, hey, what about you add this and this? And so I'm going to try to throw that together to help us digest that all.
That's why it wouldn't come out board docs.
Yeah, hold it back. Yeah. So BES playground fence.
All I got was a picture of the school.
Yeah, my blue lines didn't show up.
Oh,
I know, I was
So,
thinking, am I supposed to
we're
see?
gonna get-
You all already told me, Mom, what is that? So his line didn't show up.
Let's focus on
I
the
will, I'll focus on scrolling.
Anyway, we're
Thank
looking
you.
at, you know, we know some folks have concerns with the openness of our playground area and proximity to the road and really the proximity of the road, Agabroad, to the exit of the kindergarten. And so looking at fence, looking at door alarm options, and so I'll have a better picture, maybe pictures uploaded for next Tuesday, but that's what that's about. And then item H is, as community members pointed out, our strategic plan is expiring and need some ideas of what how the board would like to go about creating, updating And that strategic plan, we need direction. And so we can talk about who's and when's, anybody that was around that was on that. There are not too many names on that list. Yes, Mr. Elon, and left on that group that put that thing together. But so really looking about what's your interests, what's your comfort level, do you want to hire it out, you want me to lead it, you want to bring firm in, you want to bring, I know some folks that do that type of thing in retirement. And so talk pros and cons and hopefully get a direction from you all after that conversation.
On the topic, I'd like a board retreat. Touch on that.
Pardon me?
I'd like a board retreat to kind of touch on that.
Okay.
We hired it out last.
Do you remember who?
Like
I'll look.
fun one to die.
Okay.
Athletic.
Board
committee.
retreat with maybe some that you know, someone you work with, build a committee and, I mean, we heard the best thing to do is do it at a board retreat. Isn't that what we heard at training?
Or yeah, you know, at least to get the ball rolling
Mm-hmm.
and get everybody on the same page and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, so if you're, yeah, so that's the stuff we need to talk about.
Right.
Yep.
And that's it for, and then the rest is the other usual nuts and bolts of the regular board meeting. So back to the agenda for the 13th.
Now, public participation. Yep. So was there any more? Because Julie had two on here, but. Julie, did you have one more? This public participation, you have one more?
Yeah,
that
a
you
couple
wanna-
things. If you want. Don't mind, it's getting a little late. I'll look quick. These are easy ones. So my first one is, I have 2 upright pianos at home that are there for the taking. I've offered over and over. If you guys need another piano, let me know. Free. The other thing, yeah, they work.
Okay.
They're just upright. Neat tuning. So one thing was you mentioned in the agenda, I forgot about this before, about setting up a generic AP email to avoid vacancy and turnover issues, which I love. I had suggested this before because we had the same thing happen to us where things kind of fell through the cracks. And not just for those positions, but also for really any active position that, would need it. And another idea is it doesn't have to be a user ID, it can be a group. So you guys are familiar with the board. We can put, us people can just put the board in there and it goes to all 5 of you. And then that can be updated at will, right? So I leave the board, they replace it with whatever my name, whoever the other person is. So that's a great idea. I hope you extend that beyond just the AP. And then I just had a question on the calendar. So this may not be a good idea, but do the teacher days have to be consecutive to the first day of school? Like if there's a lot of training, could you back those up before the fair and do the training and then have a little break in there? I don't know if the teachers would like that, but just an idea. Or the other thing was there's a 2-week break at Christmas that I don't know if people want 2 weeks. You've never had 2 weeks.
Of course.
And for the annexation, I just want to bring up again, I say this all the time, I thank you for the resolution opposing it, but it is highly likely that it's going to go through. Once it's passed by Huber, of course, everybody's hoping that there'll be a referendum petition filed by the citizens if that's possible. But as I mentioned before, the township, we can only negotiate for the township, and the school board has to negotiate for anything you guys want for the school from the developer. So that's including like if you wanted land to have a local elementary there, which would help with traffic, or anything else that you want from them. And also it's possible to ask for an assessment that would be paid to the school. So this is like similar to other assessments that they do for water, sewer, infrastructure kind of things. But the developer has to agree to levy that assessment to go to the school. So anyhow, you just need to be prepared for that when it comes. So be thinking about what you want. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. The piano. All right, executive session. Do I have a motion to go into executive session to consider the employment or compensation of an employee or official and investigation of charges or complaints against an employee and discipline of an employee, and also to discuss preparations for conducting or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with employees? Yes, I'll second. Right, then, please call the roll.
Mrs. Leskowitz,
Yes.
Mrs. Butler,
Yes.
Mr. Elam,
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue.
Yeah.
Mr. B.
Yes.
No, actually, we can't.
Right, yeah, we're done, I mean, as far as, no, there's no reason, as I'm adjourned after the executive.